Whenever you're ready. Yeah, I'm just trying to find the compression. That's it. Oh, that's close.
Is it? Wow, that must have.
You got it set right? You want some of the... Yeah!
Oh!
Alright, that exhilarating feeling you guys just saw was us finally managing to crank start the Alldays Onions, which was quite exciting because we have been trying for a little while. It does run under its own steam, so we'll be showing you that in a minute. So as I mentioned briefly last week, the Alldays Onions is our latest acquisition. It's got a fully Australian history dating back all the way to 1907 when it was sold new. Alldays Onions is a now defunct brand. It only lasted from 1898, building cars, to 1924 or 1925. But when they did first start building cars, they were the oldest car company in the world. So they were an engineering firm established in Birmingham in 1650 that first started making bicycles. That was a bit of a trend in the end of the 19th century, and then they turned to cars. So not many of them remain nowadays in the world. This was once thought to be the only 1907 Tourer model still around. I think there might be another in the world, but they are very rare. So yeah, veteran vehicles, they're a whole different kettle of fish from what you're normally used to. All sorts of interesting features, crank start being probably the most obvious. So why don't we have a little chat with Nigel and he can explain some of these features. All right, now it's a simple engine bay under here, but funnily enough, with these kinds of vehicles, as technology got more advanced, we forgot how it works basically. So even though it's simpler, it is a little bit complicated to us. So for starters, it's a 2-cylinder, but it does have 4 spark plugs. Why is that, Nigel?
Basically because it uses these 2 spark plugs to fire up on the ignition coils when you're actually cranking it. Once you've actually got the vehicle running, then you actually flick on the magneto, which actually runs this side, so that you don't actually keep running your coils off your battery and draining the vehicle, so it actually stops on the side of the road. So that's the reason behind the 4 spark plugs.
And the magneto is that right there, right?
Yep, this is the magneto, so once this is running, it's chain driven. Once that's generating and rotating around, little points are opening inside and closing, and generating its own electric, then collapsing its own electric magnetic field, and then feeding voltage back up to the spark plugs to actually fire them. So.
And so when you're driving the car, if there's advance and retard, what does that do?
Well, the advance and retard is to change the actual ignition timing of the vehicle, or to change where the spark actually occurs. So if you want to advance the spark, you want to bring the spark in a bit earlier, which is usually when you're going up a hill. And then once you're sort of coasting down, you tend to retard them back down again, so they can just amble themselves around without too much pinging, like a lot of cars will do, especially these days when they're out of tune. So, but the advance and retard, it's actually using both the advance retard and your accelerator on the steering wheel to actually try and find the right combination and be able to not let the car labour up a hill or along the road. So quite an interesting way to drive them.
Yeah, another one of the features that required a bit of attention was your headlights. So these have been converted to electric, I see, but there's a oxyacetylene tank there.
Yes.
And you pump it through and
light them up and away you go.
Sounds safe. Now, speaking of the way we go, why don't we just pop inside and see how we go driving the thing?
Let's give it a go.
All right, sounds good. So there we go. We said we'd get it running.
And we've done it.
Good work, Nigel. Now, obviously, it's pretty bloody loud in here. Do you just maybe want to explain to us how you drive one of these?
A bit scary at the moment, mate. You've got your throttle lever up here, which controls the revs, and then you have the advance and retard and the ignition timing depending on where you're going. Whether you're going up a hill, you need a little bit more advance and a little bit more retard. Just coming to the bottom of the hill, slow down a little bit. And depending on, get a little bit more horsepower. You advancer or retarder. If you're coming down a hill, try and slow yourself down.
I'll just come behind you. Gears are on your side. you go, we're still getting used to it. But we said we'd get it running, and there she is, 1907 Alldays Onions 10-12 horsepower Tourer. Hope you've enjoyed watching.